Today, we're diving into a philosophy of power that's, let's be honest, pretty controversial. It's often misunderstood, but you really can't deny its influence. In this explainer, we're going to cut through the noise and distill the core principles right from the source material just to understand its pretty stark view of the world and the strategies it lays out for anyone who wants to win.
And this quote, this is basically the whole thesis in a nutshell. The argument here is that you don't get to choose if you play the game of power. It's already happening all around you. The only choice you have is what role you're going to take. So, with that pretty urgent tone set, let's start digging into the rules.
So, the very first step in this way of thinking is a diagnosis of reality itself. It argues that the world we live in isn't some fair and just place. Nope. It's a competitive arena, and pretty much everything is governed by power dynamics.
And right here, you see this fascinating, stark contrast. The core argument from the sources is that society teaches us all these conventional rules. Play fair, be nice, mostly to keep us compliant and predictable. But it also argues that the people who get real power, they're operating by a totally different playbook. One that's focused on leverage and results, not good intentions. And they take this idea all the way. We're not just talking about politics or big business deals. According to this philosophy, power dynamics are the invisible current in every single interaction you have. Your career, your relationships, even just casual chats with friends. In this view, there's just no escaping it.
So, if the world is this giant strategic game, where do you even start? Well, the answer, according to this philosophy, is crystal clear. You start inside. You start by gaining absolute, total control over your internal world. This is the foundation that everything else gets built on.
And let me tell you, the process it lays out is intense. First, it talks about a conscious destruction of your old self, the predictable version of you that other people can easily manipulate. Second, it's about mastering your emotions, not crushing them, but controlling what you show on the outside. And third, building an iron discipline, a system for action that works whether you feel like it or not.
Now, what's really key here is how it merges ancient Stoicism with modern strategy. The whole goal is to build this unshakable internal core. But here's the thing, it's not about finding inner peace for its own sake. It's about creating a stable platform, a solid launch pad for you to take effective action in the external world.
Okay, so once that internal state is mastered, and you're solid as a rock inside, the focus shifts outward. Now, the philosophy gives you a very clear set of tactics for how to navigate that competitive landscape and deal with other people.
The sources have, dozens of rules, but these 6 really get to the heart of it. And notice the theme, right? It's all about controlling information and how people perceive you. You hide your real intentions so people can't work against you. You say less than you need to because it makes you seem more powerful. Even a rule like never outshine the master is a vital tactic for just surviving and climbing the ladder when you're not the one in charge yet. It's all about strategic positioning.
This brings up a really critical point about perception. This philosophy argues that you absolutely cannot be passive about your reputation. If you don't deliberately shape the story people tell about you, trust me, someone else will, and they're probably going to spin it to their advantage, not yours.
And now we get to the final and, frankly, the most challenging part of this whole philosophy, the paradoxes. These are the ideas that seem to go against everything we think of as normal morality, but they're presented as the highest level of strategic thinking.
The logic here is pretty cold. The argument is that if you spare a threat because you feel a moment of kindness, all you're doing is signaling that there are no consequences for betrayal, and that just invites more chaos later on. A single, calculated, ruthless act at just the right moment is framed as a way to create long-term peace.
Now this is probably the most famous Machiavellian idea out there. The view is that love is unreliable. It depends on goodwill, which can vanish in a second. Fear, on the other hand, specifically fear of consequences, is seen as a much more stable and reliable way to command respect and make sure people do what you need them to do.
This one flies directly in the face of a very modern virtue. The argument is that honesty isn't some absolute good. It's a tool, and it should be used strategically. To just lay all your cards on the table, your plans, your weaknesses, your true thoughts, is basically handing your opponents the bullets they need to shoot you down. Strategic silence is a weapon.
So this final paradox isn't a call to become evil. Not at all. It's an argument that in order to defend yourself and the things you care about, you have to understand the so-called dark arts. True strength, in this view, means understanding deception and ruthlessness, not so you can use them, but so you can spot them and defend against the people who do.
So in the end, this whole philosophy really just boils down to one core challenge. It forces you to look at your own life and ask about action versus inaction, about strategy versus just hope. It's a provocative question, and it leaves you to think about the stark, and yeah, for a lot of us, very uncomfortable, realities of this particular worldview of power.